Hi, my name is Lily and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about some popular books that I didn't like. So I'm going to start with the obligatory, this is all my opinions. If you love these books, please don't take offence. It is just my opinion and what I felt about these books. I understand they are very popular and that lots of people love them, so yeah, please don't hate me for this. So first up, if you are new to my channel, then this will be news to you. If you are not, I will have ranted about this several times, but the first book that I didn't love that everyone else loved, it's Crescent City by Sarah J Maas. I think this is her worst book so far. Please don't hate me. I just thought it was too much. It's long, it's a chunky boy, and it didn't need to be this chunky. It didn't. There was a lot of fluff, a lot of just nonsense in here. Oh, and the characters weren't likeable. I wasn't feeling the romance. I was not feeling that enemies to lovers vibe. It just wasn't written very well for me. And honestly, like, I don't know, I just didn't like it. I liked the beginning, the characters at the beginning, they all get killed off immediately, way more than like the rest of the book, and I thought it just was a bit I really liked the world that she created and I thought it was really inventive, so I am going to give her another book in this series before I decide not to continue. But yeah, it just wasn't as good as everyone was making it out to be. Definitely is not her best book so far. Like, if you think that, I just cannot disagree more. But yeah, this book just wasn't it for me. Next up we have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is an old favourite, so a lot of people who are newer to Bookstagram and Booktube and all of those kind of things might not know that much about The Night Circus, but back in the day this was the book, the most popular thing. Like, everybody loved The Night Circus, and so I decided to read it and I didn't like it. And it's definitely one of those books where I can understand why other people loved it. I just found it so freaking boring. Nothing happens. It's so dull. Like, I loved the idea and I loved the magic, but it just was so boring to read. It's one of those that I feel like probably would make a really good TV show or film and that I would enjoy that version of it, but the book itself was just so slow, so boring. I don't know. I actually disliked it so much that I was really worried I wouldn't enjoy The Starless Sea, but I've been reading that recently and I really, really love that one. I just think the pacing is different for The Starless Sea. But yeah, The Night Circus just didn't do it for me. Although I did read this back when I was like 14, 15, so I might need to give it another go because maybe my reading taste has changed. Next up is another one that I think I must have unhauled it because I can't find it, and if you see it behind me, please don't tell me, I'll just die of shame. But next up is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. So, Red, White and Royal Blue, one of my absolute all-time favourite books, one that I'm desperate to reread. I loved it so much, I was like, surely another book by Casey McQuiston will be amazing. Yeah, no. I do not understand how anyone likes One Last Stop. Like, it's one of those books where, you know, like with The Night Circus, I understand why people loved it and I didn't, but One Last Stop, how do any of you like that book? How? Like, the characters were unlikable and annoying, and that there was no chemistry. Like, where was the chemistry between the two characters? Now, I will say, I didn't read the whole book. I read about half of it before I DNF'd. But then I was told what happened in the rest of the book and I knew I was only going to hate it more if I read it more, so if anything, this review is more positive than it would have been if I'd actually read the whole book. The plot was ridiculous, and from my understanding of what happened at the end, it was poorly explained and poorly executed. And the characters were just awful. It was just boring, like nothing was happening. I read so much of this book and nothing happened. And like, the premise tells you that Jane, I think her name is stuck on the train, but the character and the main character of the book doesn't find that out until quite late in the books. It's like a massive spoiler. Like, you're reading the first like 100 pages wondering when something interesting is going to happen because you're waiting for the main character to figure out that Jane is stuck. Like, it just wasn't it. It just was so boring and so dull, and the characters were so unlikable and so bland. I just could not. It was just so bad. Next up is definitely still a Booktube favourite, and that is the Mortal Instruments series. I hated these books so much. I don't know why I read nearly all of them. The only one I haven't read of the Mortal Instruments series is the final one, because I basically looked at how chunky it was and was like, I'm not putting myself through that. And I'm glad I didn't. Like, I absolutely hated this. These books are so poorly written. Like, I could have written better as a teenager than Cassandra Clare wrote the Mortal Instruments series. She was using similes like, oh, his gaze was so harsh and concentrated as acid. Acid comes in different concentrations, Cassandra. Like, that's not how it works. No. Like, oh, I just, it was bad. And that's like, that's not even mentioning the fact that it is literally a Harry Potter fanfiction that she then put into a book. It's also heavily plagiarized, and then there's also the incest that's just there that no one cares about. That's just, it's bad, guys. I don't understand. No. I know I have some friends who are like actual booktube friends who love this series, but I can't not hate on it in this video because it is poorly written. I've heard she gets better in her later books, and I might try some of her later books, but at the same time I'm not sure I really want to support her work when she literally writes about like incest and she plagiarizes and all that kind of stuff, so who knows? I don't know. We shall see. Now the next one makes me really sad because it feels like it should be a book that I should love, but I really didn't like The Song of Achilles. Just gonna hide. People really hate me for this one, but I just really didn't like The Song of Achilles. Again, it was one that I found boring, really slow. I was listening to it via audiobook because I thought that would make it more interesting, but it really didn't. Like, it just was very slow, very bland. There wasn't a lot of plot, and I just felt like it was hard to follow even though there wasn't anything to follow, if you know what I mean. Like, I didn't enjoy it. Another one I really didn't like was The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I think this shouldn't have been one book. I think it should have been multiple books. She even said it's like 3 books in a trench coat. Like, it is multiple books. There was no need to publish that massive chunky tome, but also there was no need to write that much waffle in your book, Samantha. Like, nothing happened. I read like over 250 pages and like nearly nothing happened. There were so many different storylines, so much info dumping. My goodness, it was so boring. So boring. Like, nothing was happening, and it was just so hard to follow because they all have all these different characters, all these different threads who call everything different things, and it just was not good. Like, I don't understand how anyone liked that. It was just so boring, and like, yeah, nothing was happening. It was really confusing. And then also, like, Samantha Shannon herself kept tweeting out spoilers for her own book while I was reading it. Like, obviously she didn't know I was reading it, but like, why are you tweeting spoilers about your own book? Why? And then also there was that big thing about someone tweeting without saying it was a spoiler, asking about one of the trigger warnings, and like, I do know some people say that trigger warnings can't be spoilers, but I believe that they can be, because sometimes they are spoilers and they are big plot points, and that completely spoiled like a massive part of the book for me, and it just meant that I was reading it and I was like, oh well, now I know that happens, I'm really not invested in this book anymore. And yeah, as much as like I fully believe that the trigger warning should be readily available and easy to access, I feel like they should be optional for those of us that don't need them and don't want that like spoiler element. So yeah, it just was a whole mess of a book for me. I just felt like, I don't know how her editors let her publish that. It did not need to be that long and that chunky. It really didn't. Like, I don't think it needed that much. The next one is one where it definitely just wasn't for me, and that is Legendborn. And yeah, that just didn't vibe with me. I just found it quite boring again. Like, all of these I just found boring, basically. I don't know. I didn't vibe with the urban fantasy element. I do tend to struggle with urban fantasy, but this one was so hyped up, I thought I'd give it a go. And it was an Illumicrate book. I didn't buy it myself. But yeah, it just wasn't, it didn't hit right for me. There just was something missing. I found it kind of boring, kind of confusing. I really didn't like the main character. She wasn't very likable and she was quite two-dimensional, as were most of the side characters. And I did DNF it before I got to the end, but yeah, I just really wasn't vibing with that book. So those are all the popular books that I didn't like that I wanted to talk to you about today. Let me know in the comments if you didn't like any of these books as well, and let me know other popular books you didn't like, and I will try not to cry if they are some of my favourites. So yes, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to see more content from me. All of my social media links are down in the description below. If you want to leave me a comment to let me know you're here, leave me a broken heart emoji in the comments below. Thank you again for watching. Bye!